So the interpreter, please raise his right hand, listen to the oath.
Do you affirm that you will interpret accordingly and impartially, follow all count lines for court interpreters that are binding on you, and discharge of the following duties and obligations of an official interpreter?
I do to the best of my ability. Jonathan Forte, AOC approved Spanish court interpreter. Good afternoon.
Okay, Mr. Munoz, are you having any difficulty hearing the interpreter at this time?
No.
And you're not having any difficulty understanding the Spanish that he's speaking, correct?
No.
Okay. What is your full name, please?
Jose Munoz Jr.
All right, prosecutor, you are in possession of charges filed against Mr. Munoz in the state of New York, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you want to state what those are, please?
Your Honor, Mr. Munoz has been charged in the state of New Jersey on warrant complaint W 2018-2947-1608 as a fugitive from justice for charges pending out of the state of New York for the offenses of homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
Okay, Mr. Munoz, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder. And the state of New York is asking the state of New Jersey to send you back there to answer these charges. You understand that?
Yes.
Right now you have the right to an attorney, and it's my understanding that you've met with your attorney.
No, yes.
Okay. At this stage, do you have any questions that you want to ask your attorney?
No.
All right, defense counsel, it's my understanding that the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, he does, Judge.
Mr. Munoz, is that correct? You want to waive your right to an extradition hearing?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Well, I have to make sure that you know what you're doing before you say that you're waiving it. All right. So if you asked for an extradition hearing, your attorney would file on your behalf something called a writ of habeas corpus. Now, if you did that, then Governor Cuomo would send what's called a governor's warrant to Governor Murphy, the governor of New Jersey. Governor Murphy would review that warrant to see if it's in proper form, and then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, I can't tell you specifically how long that would take, but it could take at least a couple of weeks if that was to happen. You understand that?
Yes, I understand.
And so once that happened, then I would schedule a hearing. But the only issue at that hearing would be whether you are in fact the person that's being charged with the crime. And then whether that crime that you're being charged with is also a crime in New Jersey. So murder is a crime in the state of New York, and murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. And then you would be subject to extradition. During that period, you would not be entitled to any jail credits. Now, knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges? Yes.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for your attorney?
No.
Council, any questions?
No.
Mr. Katsanos, anything?
Nothing from the state.
All right, you're hereby remanded back to the Passaic County Jail, where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York.
Ellos lo van a detener y lo van a regresar, lo van a traer de vuelta al estado de Nueva York.
And we'll just put a control date on this.
Vamos a programar una fecha, una cita de control.
July 26th. All right, so what I've done, Mr. Munoz, is I've placed what's called a control date on your case. That means I will reschedule it back before me on July 30th. But the only purpose for that hearing would be to make sure that the state of New York came to pick you up, to return you back to the state of New York to answer those charges.
Y regresarlo al estado de Nueva York para que usted responda a estos cargos.
Do you understand that?
¿Entiende? Yes.
Any questions at all?
¿Tiene preguntas? No.
Okay, thank you.
Bien, gracias.
Judge, I have the order for dismissal. Should we bring it up?
Yes,
For
please.
the fugitive warrant.
Did he sign it? Okay, thank you. All right, who are we doing next? Mr. Santiago Rodriguez. Yes.
Did you get the waivers?
I do.
Can you sign now?
Yeah, they actually, can I just see this for a second?
Por eso, señor. Le voy a poner los audífonos para que no oiga todo. ¿Está bien? ¿Está bien puesto? Sí.
Okay, we're using a different interpreter, correct?
Yes,
Right.
Your Honor.
All right, interpreter, just please raise your right hand, listen to the oath.
Do you affirm that you interpret thoroughly and impartially follow all guidelines for court interpreting that are binding on you and the charge of the following duties and obligations of an official interpreter?
I do. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Mercedes Avalos, AVALOS, AOUSC, federally certified Spanish interpreter.
Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Avalos. All right, sir, are you Santiago Rodriguez?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, and for the state of New Jersey, Mr. Katsanos?
Nicholas Kasam for the state, Your Honor.
Okay, can you please state the charges?
Your Honor, Mr. Rodriguez has been charged in the state of New Jersey on warrant complaint W 2018-2952-1608 as a fugitive from justice based on charges stemming out of the state of New York for homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
Okay, Mr. Rodriguez, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder. And the state of New York is asking that the state of New Jersey send you back there to answer these charges. Do you understand that?
Sí.
Yes.
Now, you have the right to counsel, and have you met with your attorney?
No.
No.
Ms. Fallon's standing right next to you. Did you have any conversation with her about what's happening here today?
Sí.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Are you understanding the interpreter okay?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Ms. Fallon, it's my understanding that the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing.
That's correct, Your Honor, he does.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez, is that correct? You want to waive your right to an extradition hearing?
Yes.
Okay, now before you do that, I just want to explain to you what would have been involved in that. I want to make sure that you knowingly and voluntarily are waiving this right. So if you filed for an extradition hearing, you would file something called a writ of habeas corpus. Now if you do that, then Governor Cuomo, who's the governor of the state of New York, will send what's called a governor's warrant for your arrest to Governor Murphy, who's the governor of the state of New Jersey. Governor Murphy would take a look at it, and if it is in proper form, then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. That would come to me. I would then look at it and we'd have a hearing, but the hearing is very, very limited. The only thing that we would talk about at that hearing is whether you are being charged in New York with a crime that is also a crime in New Jersey. And so murder is a crime in the state of New York, and murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. And the only other issue is, are you who you are in fact? Are you Mr. Santiago? Do you understand that?
Sí.
Yes.
Now, knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges?
Sí.
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
No.
No.
You're remanded back to the Passaic County Jail, where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York. We'll set a control date of July 30th. What I'm doing by that, Mr. Rodriguez, is we are making sure that you don't fall through the cracks. We want to make sure that New York comes and picks you up. If for some reason you appear in my court in 30 days, then we'd have to reach out to the state of New York to see why they didn't come get you. You understand that? Oh, July,
Yes.
I'm sorry. July 26th? I'm sorry. July 26th is the date. Any questions at all?
No.
Ms.
No.
Fallon, anything?
Just one thing to add, Your Honor. Mr. Santiago, like all of the defendants this morning, has executed an invocation of his Fifth Amendment rights.
Okay.
I have provided a copy of that. We've all provided copies of that to the prosecutor, and I want that on the record for all defendants today.
Okay. All right. And I see his signature on this waiver, Ms. Fallon. That is in fact his signature, correct?
Yes, it is, in fact.
And he signed that in front of you, correct?
He did, and I'll be handing up, Your Honor, the dismissal of the future complaint.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. He can be taken back to the Passaic County Jail. The next one? Next.
Junkin Martinez.
Martinez.
Okay, again, we're using the services of our interpreter. Our interpreter has already been previously sworn. Sir, what is your name, please?
Señor, ¿cómo se llama? Diga su nombre y apellido, por favor. Jonaki Martinez.
I'm sorry, the first name, please?
Disculpe, repite su nombre. Jonaki Martinez. Jonaki Martinez.
Onaiki?
Jonaki.
Can you spell that, please?
Yes.
¿Cómo se deletrea su nombre?
Joniki.
N-I-A-I.
Last name Martinez.
Apellido Martinez.
Martinez.
Okay, counsel, can you enter your appearance, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Thomas McClellan on behalf of Mr. Martinez.
On behalf of the state,
Yes, Mr. Guzman.
Mr. Gonzalez, you want to state the charges against Mr. Martinez, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Martinez has been charged by way of warrant complaint W 2018-2951, 1608, as a fugitive from justice, based on charges stemming out of the state of New York, for homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
All right, so Mr. Martinez, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder, and the state of New York is asking the state of New Jersey to send you back there to answer these charges. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, you have the right to counsel, and have you met with your counsel today?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for him right now?
¿Tiene preguntas que hacerle a él ahora mismo? No. Nothing, no.
All right, counsel, it's my understanding that the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Martinez, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah means yes? I'm not sure. You have to say yes. I don't know what yeah means.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we just have to make sure that you're doing this knowingly and voluntarily. So you have your right to contest your extradition if you chose to do so. And the way you would do that is you would file what's called a writ of habeas corpus. Now, if you did that, then Governor Cuomo from the state of New Jersey would send what's called a governor's warrant to Governor Murphy, who's the governor of New Jersey. Governor Murphy would review it, and if it was in proper form, then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. That warrant would come to me, and we would schedule a hearing. And the only two things that we would talk about at that hearing is whether you are in fact Joneki Martinez, and whether or not the crime for which you were charged in New York is also a crime in the state of New Jersey. Murder is a crime in the state of New York, and murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. Now, knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges?
Yes.
Do you have any questions that you want to ask me?
No. Nothing.
Counsel, do you have anything?
No, Your Honor.
You're remanded back to the Passaic County Jail, where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York. Control date? July 26th is your control date. That means that I've scheduled that just to make sure that you were picked up by the state of New York. It's what's called a control date. If you've already been taken back to the state of New York, obviously, there's going to be no need for you to appear on that date. Do you have any questions at all?
No. Nothing.
Okay, thank you. He's bringing it up now. In the waiver. Manuel Rivera.
Sí.
Okay, again, we're using the services of the court interpreter. Mr. Rivera, can you hear the court interpreter?
Sí.
Yes.
Can you understand the English, the Spanish that she's speaking?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Katsanos, charge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rivera has been charged by way of warrant complaint W 2018-2949-1608 as a fugitive from justice out of the state of New York for the charge of homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
All right, Mr. Rivera, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder. And the state of New York is asking the state of New Jersey to send you back there to answer these charges. Do you understand that?
Sí.
Yes.
All right, now you have a right to an attorney. Have you met with your attorney?
No.
No.
Your attorney's standing right next to you. Do you recall seeing her earlier in the day?
Judge, for the
Yes.
record, all of these gentlemen are thinking that their attorneys will be in New York, but
Right.
they've spoken with the attorneys in New Jersey.
All right, so Mr. Rivera, the attorney that's standing next to you here in New Jersey, have you had sufficient time to talk to your attorney about what we're doing here today?
Sí.
Yes.
All right, it's my understanding that the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing, correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right, Mr. Rivera, is that correct? Do you wish to waive your extradition hearing?
Yes.
All right, and in my effort to determine whether you're doing this knowingly and voluntarily, I want to tell you what an extradition hearing would involve. If you requested an extradition hearing, you would file what's called a writ of habeas corpus. And once you did that, Governor Cuomo from the state of New York would send what's called a governor's warrant to Governor Murphy, who's the governor of the state of New Jersey. Governor Murphy would review it to make sure that it's complete and in proper form. And then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
He would send that governor's warrant to me, and I would schedule a hearing. Now, at that hearing, there would only be two real issues. One, whether you are in fact Manuel Rivera, and two, whether murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey and in the state of New York. And I can tell you that murder is a crime in the state of New York and murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges?
Sí.
Yes.
Do you have any questions at all you want to ask me or
No.
your attorney?
No.
No. No.
Okay, you're remanded back to the Passaic County Jail where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York to answer these charges. Control date is July 26th. What I've done, Mr. Rivera, is I've set a court date here in New Jersey of July 26th, but I don't anticipate that you'll be here. I would think that by then the state of New York will have come to take you back, but it's what's called a control date to make sure that you don't fall through the cracks. Do you understand that?
Sí.
Yes.
Any questions at all?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, I'll bring up the appropriate paperwork.
Perdón.
Jose Tavares, the last case of future.
Okay, thanks. Okay, again, we're using the services of our interpreter. Sir, what is your name, please?
José Tavares. José Tavares.
All right, Mr. Tavares, are you having any trouble hearing our interpreter?
¿Tiene dificultades para oír al intérprete? Good. 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 Good.
We hear good. Okay.
Podemos oír, ¿verdad?
And are you understanding the Spanish that he's
¿Y
speaking?
usted entiende el español que él le habla? Okay, yes. Okay, yes.
All right, so there's no dialect problem that you're having. You understand the Spanish that he's speaking.
Con respecto al dialecto, ¿usted entiende el español que él le habla? Ajá, sí. Ajá, yes.
Okay, make sure you say yes, because I don't know what I mean.
Utiliza la palabra sí.
All right, Mr. Katsanos?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Tavares has been charged on warrant complaint W 2018-2948-1608 as a fugitive from justice for charges stemming out of the state of New York for homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
All right, so Mr. Tavares, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder. And the state of New York is asking the state of New Jersey to send you back there to answer these charges. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So you have the right to an attorney. Have you met with your attorney who's standing next to you today?
Se ha reunido hoy con la abogada que está de pie al lado suyo. Sí. Yes.
And Ms. Fallon, it's my understanding the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, he does.
Mr. Tavares, is that correct? You're going to waive your right to an extradition hearing?
Renunciar a su derecho de tener una audiencia de extradición. Yes.
And before you officially do that, I have to determine whether you know you're doing it knowingly and voluntarily.
Lo ha hecho a sabiendas y voluntariamente.
So you have a right to contest the extradition by filing a legal pleading that's known as a writ of habeas corpus. Now, if you did do this, then Governor Cuomo, who's the governor of the state of New York, would send what's called a governor's warrant to Governor Murphy, who's the governor of the state of New Jersey. Governor Murphy would review it and determine if it is in proper form, and then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. He would send that warrant to me. I would schedule a hearing, but the only issues at that hearing would be whether you are in fact the person being charged, and whether the crime for which you're being charged in New York is also a crime in the state of New Jersey. And murder is a crime in the state of New York, and murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges?
Yes.
Do you have any questions at all that you want to ask me?
No. No.
Any questions for your attorney?
In the Bronx. In the Bronx.
In the Bronx, okay.
In the Bronx. Está bien.
You're hereby remanded back to the Passaic County Jail, where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York. I'm setting what's called a control date for you of July 26th here in New Jersey. That's just a date that I've set to make sure that you don't fall through the cracks. And that between now and then, law enforcement agents from the state of New York have taken you back there. obviously, if they take you back there, you're not required to appear on that
Ya
date.
se lo han llevado para allá, no está necesario que usted comparezca ese día.
Do you have any questions at all that you want to ask
¿Tiene
me?
preguntas en absoluto que hacerme? No.
Any questions at all that you want to ask your attorney?
¿Preguntas en absoluto que hacerle a su abogado?
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Entiendo.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Gracias, gracias, señoría.
Okay. Sir, what's your name?
Fernandez.
All right, I really need you to lift your head up and face me so that I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you do not need the services of a Spanish interpreter, correct?
No.
You understand English perfectly, is that correct? You have to say yes or no. You can't nod your
Yes.
head or shake your head. Yes? All right. So state your full name and spell it for me, please, just so I can make sure.
DANIEL-FERNANDEZ.
Daniel Fernandez, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Pitsanis, what is he charged with?
Your Honor, Mr. Fernandez is charged New Jersey warrant complaint W2018-29506-1608 as a fugitive from justice based on charges stemming out of the state of New York for homicide, manslaughter, and assault.
Okay, so Mr. Fernandez, you've been charged in the state of New York with the crime of murder. And the state of New York is asking the state of New Jersey to send you back there to answer these charges. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So you have the right to counsel. Have you met with your attorney? The one that's standing next to you here today. Have you met with the gentleman who's standing next to you, that attorney,
Yes.
not the New York attorney? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Counsel, it's my understanding that the defendant wishes to waive his right to an extradition hearing, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor, he does.
Mr. Fernandez, is that right? You want to waive your right to an extradition hearing?
Yes.
Do you have any questions of me at this point? I don't know what that means. You have to say yes or no. No? All right. Well, to make sure that you're waiving your right knowingly and voluntarily, I want to make sure that you understand what an extradition hearing would involve. So you have a right to contest the extradition by filing what's called a writ of habeas corpus. If you do that, then Governor Cuomo would send what's called a governor's warrant. He's the governor of the state of New York. He would send a governor's warrant to Governor Murphy, who's the governor of the state of New Jersey. And Governor Murphy would review it, and if it's in proper form, then Governor Murphy would issue his own governor's warrant. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And then that governor's warrant would come to me, and I would schedule a hearing. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. Now, the hearing is very limited. One, I would just have to determine whether you are in fact the person named in the complaint coming out of New York. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And whether or not the crime that you were charged with is a crime also in the state of New Jersey. And you're charged with the crime of murder. That is a crime in the state of New York. And murder is a crime in the state of New Jersey. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions of me at this point?
No.
And knowing that you have the right to a hearing, do you wish to waive that right and immediately return to the state of New York to face these charges?
Yes.
Do you have any questions you want to ask your lawyer,
No.
the one that's here?
No.
You're remanded back to the Passaic County Jail, where you will remain in custody until law enforcement agents from the state of New York take you into their custody to return you to the state of New York. You'll have what's called a control date here in New Jersey of July 26th. That's just a date that I set to make sure that you don't fall through the cracks. I'm anticipating that the state of New York is going to come and get you very quickly, but if for some reason you're still in the Passaic County Jail on July 26th, I need to know that. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay.
Just I know that you signed the order, I just wanted to indicate for the record that the state moves to dismiss all warrant complaints as they pertain to this defendant. So they can,
The fugitive complaint.
correct, just the fugitive.
So all the fugitive complaints will be dismissed because they're no longer fugitives, they're going to be extradited.
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that everybody? Everyone?
That is, sir.
Okay, all right, that concludes our proceedings. Okay, thank you.